Hello, my name is Cari Phelps, and I'm here to speak today about packaging redefined and how sustainable choices can work for brands and bottom lines. This is a presentation previously completed at the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetics Guild Annual Conference in 2019 in Texas. As I mentioned, I'm Cari Phelps, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative agency leader. I'm a founder of a skincare brand. I'm a problem solver since a very young age. I grew up traveling with my parents in the back of a Volkswagen bus, so always learned how to seek the silver lining. And I'm an eco advocate. This is an example of some of the products that we've created and I've developed under the brand Salacia Salt, which launched 7 years ago. We have a complete line of products that are inspired by the Salton Sea using botanicals that are grown in the South as well as Atlantic sea salt. We have moisturizers, lotions, conditioners, bath bombs, bath cleansers, candles, lip scrubs, and a collection of sustainable packaging options for people to come in and fill their own container or purchase bulk from us. Here's another example of some products that we've created under Clark Creative. Of course, the skincare line on the top left, and then focusing on small batch luxury goods for gourmet pet and food products in the gift industry, as well as consumables, mass market like Cafe Delight, products that are sold to industries like hotels, universities. So, we were at a Handcrafted Soap conference, and we all have different positions on what we do and how we do it and why. So what does handcrafted stand for? Most importantly, handcrafted is quality, it's uniqueness, it's special, of course it's creative. It can be expensive, not always, but sometimes. Handcrafted a lot of times means small business. Sometimes it means small batch. Fun. Handcrafted is beautiful. Handcrafted is interesting. So if we are all of these things and most of them to our consumer, shouldn't we present these special, beautiful creations of quality products in a way that matches? Of course, mass market products might be machine made. They're possibly cheap. They potentially have chemicals. They're a mass brand, so they're expected, they're everyday, they're simple, they're accessible, they're basic, maybe they're even boring. So what can we do to stand out? If we are making a unique creation, spending hours of perfecting a finish, the fragrance, the detail, and shape, let's be sure to present it in a way that is just as wonderful. Of course, we can wrap a bath bomb in a simple piece of plastic, or we can really speak to our audience, spend a little bit of extra time, and wrap it in a truly unique way. You can tell that this product has been wrapped by hand, hand-applied label, definitely more interesting and unique. So you want to ensure that you're aligning the message with the brand and the products that are ensuring that it looks handcrafted. Do something that's truly different, that makes it look one of a kind, something that commands a higher value and attention. So this presentation is about sustainability, packaging solutions, and branding. Branding is a huge part of brand perception. So how does someone feel when they interact with your brand? Of course, it's the fragrance, it's the smell, it's the scent, it's the size, it's the weight, it's how you feel in your hand. It's the color, it's that beautiful texture of the product, whether it's silky smooth, whether it has little knobs on it, whether it's a piece of fabric. It's the person selling it, it's your sales team. Those salespeople are one of the most valuable attributes to your company, and they help tell people the value of and importance of your product. But of course, the packaging is very important as well. So the packaging is important when someone's not there to tout all the benefits of your product and the story behind it. So what I like to say is it's every single touch point. That is what your brand is. It's all these elements that combine together to create the uniqueness of your brand. So of course, you could buy or sell a bar of soap for $10. It has all these qualities and it's worth it. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's got lavender goat's milk, handcrafted, you can tell it's hand cut. You even tell your story. Maybe it's worth more than, 20% more than this $10 because of all the labor and love you literally pour into every single bar of soap. But of course you struggle. People want a discount, so you sell two for 15. Now don't get me wrong, nothing in the world is going to stop people from wanting a deal. Everybody wants a deal. Everybody likes a good sale, right? However, my point here today is this. What are you doing to present your bar of soap in its best light? What are you doing to show that your product, whether it's a bar of soap, a book, a jar of honey, is worth it? So you could package your product in a piece of plastic. You could box it in something that most other crafters, makers, or artisans are using because it's available online as a template to a vendor or supplier. Or are you sharing your story, how you make it? Is it displaying it uniquely? Yes, of course your costs are higher, but your margins should be too. You are creating something unique that demands more value. Whether we like it or not, people will judge a book by its cover, or a bar of soap by its wrapper, or, like I like to put as an example, a bottle of wine by its label. Trust me, I judge wine that way. Ooh, pretty label, embossing, gold foil, that wine must be good. So, I would wager that 99% of the people listening today reduce, reuse, or recycle already. This is something inherent in all of us. It's pretty normal for every customer and consumer out there. You don't have to be a tree-hugging hippie to really get this concept anymore or to even practice. So how many of you gone to the liquor store to pick up a box for moving? This is a perfect example of reusing. It's the perfect shape, size, it has handles built in, it's free, why not? So it's nothing new to reuse. And in that action, you're actually reducing, you're upcycling. Well, what about this? A kid gets a great gift, opens it up, and puts the gift to the side, and jumps in the box. This is something that we've all seen. So we're all in this together. We understand the concept of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So here's a reality check. Polystyrene, that's styrofoam. It's made from petroleum. It's not biodegradable. It's detrimental to wildlife that ingest it, and it takes literally thousands of years to break down. That's totally not acceptable. Plastic, same thing, petroleum-based, not biodegradable. Animals eat it, and it takes 400 to 500 years to break down. So how important is that container that you're putting your product in? Does it really need to stick around the earth for 400 to 500 years? The good news here is that 56% of U.S. consumers say they want more sustainable packaging. This is pretty awesome. So the goal here is to be aware of the impact of these materials like plastic. Sustainable packaging is designing and creating product packaging with the main purpose of doing as little harm as possible to the environment. The goal is to avoid depleting natural resources. So you have to think about all the materials, the planning, the consideration, the energy it takes to produce that product, all the way to its end life. What happens to the container after all the great goodness inside is gone? After the lotion is depleted, after the last drop of honey, the cookies are all eaten. What is going to happen to that package? So in theme parks, SeaWorld has finally banned styrofoam. This is truly surprising to consider if you think about their brand values. They educate about sea life and the importance animals have on their business and their bottom line. So of course it's really important that they ban something like that will actually be a detriment to the very actors and content that draws people to the theme park. Another one is cruise lines. A lot of cruise lines are wasteful. They're a huge waste creator. So there are some cruise lines in Europe that are now eliminating single-use plastics. So that really can be a driving decision to help people make decisions on choosing a cruise line, one that's more eco-conscious over one that's not. And last but not least, a really cool movement is McDonald's. They have announced that their packaging will be 100% renewable and recycled by 2025. This is going to impact millions of people and our environment in a very short few years. So what's cool about 56% of people wanting more sustainable packaging is 66% of those say they're willing, 66% of those say they're willing to pay more for sustainable packaging. So how do we define sustainability? It's all about people, planet, and profits. For something to be sustainable, it must be effective for all three moving parts. Think of it as a stool. All three need to be supported for something to be viable. It can't only be environmental, but it must also be beneficial to your company's bottom line and something people can bear, both economically and accessibly. So creating a product that's really great for the environment that costs too much will not help your bottom line. Here's a great example from H&M. H&M knows its audience. It's people between 18 and 35 years old. They care about the environment and appreciate brands who go the extra mile by choosing eco-friendly solutions. Not only are these bags made from less material than H&M's traditional plastic bag, but they contain 80% recycled content in the paper, which is pretty cool. This packaging was executed with reusability in mind, which increases the brand loyalty among their audience. Fortunately, we can see major shifts from corporations all the way down to underground movements like zero waste initiatives that are trending on Instagram. Americans alone throw away 140 billion pounds of packaging every single year. That's 140 pounds of packaging alone. That number is astronomical. So this trend should continue as people become more educated and aware of the challenges and problems at hand. This new trend of zero waste or reusing packaging has been gaining popularity over recent years. So let's challenge ourselves. Let's make a difference by shifting from plastics and single-use consumables to something less temporary, something less destructive. This is a great example of a company that has built a product around sustainability. Their packaging is a great alternative for the environment. So yes, you've got that planet piece checked out. It's aluminum versus something that's traditionally packaged in plastic. The business model is really smart. It has been created to allow for repeat business, which helps the company's bottom line. So there you go, check into your profits column. And last but not least, it's helpful for people because this product's accessible through their website, and they encourage reuse and refilling of their containers through free shipping incentives if you sign up for this subscription program. So it's really easy for people to adopt. Super smart win, way to go. So packaging solutions is the next area we'll talk about. And we have to think about if your product is being lost on tired eyes because there's so many different products out there. Many companies are afraid to change because there's so much investment, time, and energy built on their processes, on their labels, on the packaging investments, on the vendors they've found. So I'd like to do a little case study now about Julie Corbett. She worked for an investment company who was buying the stock of an established beverage company that was planning to move into the ready-to-drink wholesale market. Now, they were looking at a volume of 6 to 8 million units for the first year alone. That number seems like a massive number to Julie, and I agree. Does the world really need 6 million more plastic bottles polluting it? Around the same time, Julie ordered her first iPhone, and it came in this paper tray that was molded just like plastic. That's when she thought, if it's possible to shape paper in this way, why isn't a packaging company seizing the opportunity to make products that are less impactful on the planet? Smart move, Julie. So this paper is a natural fiber-based material that's relatively easy and cost-effective to break down and recycle over and over again. So the stuff in your bin goes to what we call recycling facilities, but all they really do is sort the materials and try to sell them. So unfortunately, in America, the big paper companies purchase a lot of the paper waste and turn it back into paper, tissue, cardboard. And the unfortunate part is chemical companies, the ones that are producing things like plastic, aren't active in aftermarkets. So there's not really a life cycle for post-consumer products outside of this paper industry. So why not be the brand that breaks the mold with new cutting-edge packaging design to catch consumers' attention? There's really time to be innovative. There's a lot of things that are out in the market that a lot of people haven't seen yet. So let's think outside the traditional box, just like Julie did when she started EcoLogic. Now this is a sample of her packaging that shows 60 to 70% less plastic. So people want less environmentally abrasive packaging and they're willing to pay more. Why not come up with some ideas to get around that, to achieve that? So EcoLogic and Seed created the first shower-stable biodegradable paper bottle. They've already produced 400,000 bottles, which means together they've diverted about 10.5 tons of plastic from landfills. So this is made up of two different parts. Because of the way the bottle comes apart, it can be shipped nested, which requires less truck space and fewer carbon emissions. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, less than 10% of plastic is actually recycled, and the rest piles up in landfills and, of course, it goes into the oceans. So this design helps reduce the plastic material at the source. On the other hand, about 90% of fiber-based products can be recycled. So the majority of this packaging can be recycled. So why not use paper, a renewable, compostable, and easily recyclable material in packaging? Aveda's been doing it. This is a package that was designed over 10 years ago, and it's still being used today.
It all goes back to corporate responsibility. Recycling seems like the logical first step, but it isn't the best option, especially since 91% of plastic isn't recycled. That's why companies like Cari have cropped up to help process hard-to-recycle materials.
We deal with items that cost more to process and recycle than the value at the end. So Cari partners with different brands who sponsor the shipping and recycling of all of their non-recyclable material.
What are some things that are deemed non-recyclable?
In the instance of personal care and beauty, think about the different types of plastics and or metals that might be in one single product. If you have a shampoo bottle with a pump, inside of that may be a spring or some sort of an additional plastic. So it's multi-polymer. And so it automatically becomes more complicated in that way.
What do you think that retailers and brands can do instead of putting all this waste in landfill?
The first step for a lot of brands is to take a macro step back and say, okay, what is it that we're producing? What do our supply chains look like? What's important to our consumer? How do we want to be a good steward to the environment? And then what's the end of life for our product? So once a consumer has it and they've now utilized the product inside, then what? How can we offer an end of life solution that's sustainable and not negatively impacting the environment and remove waste from landfills?
According to a 2015 report by Nielsen, 66% of global consumers say they're willing to pay more for sustainable brands. Retailers can work with third-party organizations to ensure that their unsaleable products aren't left sitting in landfills for the next 500 years. And brands should be taking the steps needed to get there. But it's not just the disposal methods of products that needs to change. It's the products themselves. Beauty industry veteran Shane Wolf has worked with successful haircare brands like Redken and Pureology. In 2018, he worked with L'Oreal to launch Seed Phytonutrients, a brand that uses shower-friendly, compostable cardboard bottles.
I would love to learn from you about why you decided to start.
I spent my entire career working in the beauty industry, and there came a point when I started to see the pictures of ocean plastic and reading the realities of the fact that our landfills were filling with mountains of plastic. And I'm looking around at the beauty industry that I've spent all my career in saying, we can do better than this. As knowledge increases with consumers, we see their choices shifting as well. A great example is the no straws movement. For me, the tipping point was when I went from wanting to create an actual product as in a formula to then saying, but how will we package that? It's time to go because we need to lead by example to show that there is another way. There was never a moment of doubt. We went directly to the CEO of L'Oreal Worldwide and pitched the idea. It was a yes from the beginning.
What makes the Seed Phytonutrients bottle and the things that you package your products in different from what else is out there on the market?
Knowing we already had great formulas, we knew we would only launch when we found a packaging solution that helped to reduce our dependency on plastic overall. Very little plastic is recycled. On the contrary, about 90% of paper is recycled in the U.S. So So the Seed Phytonutrients bottle is the industry's first shower-safe paper bottle that is composed of 60% less plastic than a normal bottle. So I'm pleased that we have reduced the amount of plastic per bottle by 60%, but in no way am I satisfied. And in 2019, we're down to 70% with a plan to reach 80% less by the year after.
So Refinery 29 provided that video, and we can see that it's talking about the current initiatives and solutions in the market. So the trend is going more and more towards less impactful solutions. Companies must make the change to be responsible for the decisions we make that affect the lives of people around us. It affects our Earth's health, and it's very important. So this video talks about the current initiatives and solutions in the market. The video is by Refinery 29. Companies must make the change to be responsible for the decisions we make that affect the lives of the people around us and our Earth's health. So 80% of new consumer packaged goods launched in the United States will disappear from shelves within 2 years. So again, it's really important to keep consumers' interest as well as retailers and to do something that stands out. Not only do we have to think about the packaging, but what are we going to do to keep the consumer's interest? There are packaging styles that we haven't even seen in the United States from places like New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. An example is these new bag-in-box solutions, and we'll see a lot of this in the wine industry, but why not put a detergent or a liquid shampoo in a box and the product inside can rest in the bag? There's probably 60 to 70% less plastic right there. So we're going to move into packaging solutions, and here are some different options. We've discussed a lot about paperboard and fiber, molding that, of course, corrugated boxes, post-consumer recycled or post-consumer resins. That's a plastic that has actually been reused and reformed into another product. So it's a plastic bottle that was recycled, turned into another plastic bottle. There's paper alternatives like plant-based products and solutions like bamboo, stone, rice paper, and sugar. And I just warn you to be careful about these because they sound like great alternatives to maybe a plastic. Something like stone might repel water like a plastic would, but get this, it's coated in plastic, hence the reason why it doesn't absorb. So be sure to dig in and don't just take things for what you read online. Dig in, look at some of the competing angles to make sure that it's really the most sustainable solution. Glass can be very sustainable, but it takes a long time to go away as well. It doesn't pollute the water, so that's the upside, but it takes a lot to produce it. There's, of course, metals and aluminums, plastic films and laminates like you would see on a label or a sticker, or an adhesive that goes on bottles, porcelains and ceramics, and different types of organic materials, which are really fun. So I'd like to evaluate the different solutions here, and this is what we call our people, planet, profit rating. So, of course, you look at the different values from the accessibility to the production to the life cycle or the human factor, the cost, the weight, and then it gives you a total rating. So this is based on the materials used, and if you look at something like the fiber or the paperboard, it's accessible, it's easy to produce, it doesn't take, it takes a lot of water. But the life cycle human factor, well, we know it's going to decompose pretty easily. It doesn't take a lot of effort to get there. And of course, that means the cost is pretty low and the weight's not bad. So we give it a rating of 7. But then you go to a different product like PCR. Sounds like a great idea, but it's not very accessible. It's harder to produce. It takes a lot of waste and energy to get all the people to come together to recycle it. And then you think about that life cycle, the human factor. Like we heard, only 10% of plastics get recycled. So that we give this rating a 3, this category a 3 rating because of that. The chances of something being recycled are less than something like a cellophane bag or a paper alternative, just because of the ease of it getting back to the earth and going through that entire cycle of breaking down. There's other products like porcelain and ceramic. It gets a rating of 15, but that's because it takes so much energy to produce. So if you think about that product, it's not that bad on the environment. However, it doesn't go away. But if you can create a product that can be used over and over and over again because it's durable, the value actually is pretty good, and that rating would probably go down as long as you think about that as part of your marketing message and your overall brand and business strategy. I like that category at the very bottom, the organic and the cotton and the raw. Recently, we came up with the idea to wrap a bar of soap in tamale husk. Now, we're still testing that to make sure that that tamale fragrance and the dirt from those tamale husks are no longer, they don't sit with the product, but it's just a way to explore a new way to use a material that's natural that will decompose. So in terms of recycling, there's a huge challenge globally in which China no longer buys Americans' recycling because, frankly, Americans are not educated about how to properly recycle. We are taught that we can recycle plastics and glass and aluminum and maybe paperboard, but once that paperboard gets wet, it's no longer reusable. But in terms of China purchasing our plastics, there's so much trash and waste mixed in that now they are declining and refusing to purchase our trash. And I don't blame them. But the problem really is down to our systems within our individual counties. Every single place you travel, every place you visit, where you live, everyone's system for recycling is different. And honest to God, right now, recycling is not really happening in the United States. There are stockpiles of this trash and this recycling being stored, waiting for a better solution. And hopefully there's an American brand, an American company that wants to start recycling this because there's a wealth of value there. And of course, we can't just keep throwing it in landfills. What we do when we throw a piece of plastic away that actually cannot be recycled by our local processor, we like to use the word wish cycling. So you're wishing it away. You wish it could be recycled, but it can't. So in our county in Georgia, we can only recycle plastics 1 through 3. So unfortunately, when I go to the grocery store and I see a container that I can tell is PCR, I can tell it's been recycled and it's made out of a renewable or a renewed source, not renewable, but renewed. Unfortunately, it's a number 5, and that just ends up in our landfill. So even though I feel like I'm making the smartest choice on the material, it may not be something that I can recycle here in our city. So companies like TerraCycle, they will collect number 5 plastics and recycle them for you, but of course you've got to pay that fee. So that's that summary. And you also have to think about that human factor I touched on. So let's be considerate of the word biodegradable. So this term conjures up pictures of material just sitting in the dirt, harmlessly decomposing into the earth around it, ultimately going back to where it came from. That's what I picture in my head when I hear biodegradable. But biodegradable plastics are being touted as the solution that can stop our reliance on single-use plastics, and it's simply not always the case. The truth of the matter is a majority of these sustainable package solutions labeled biodegradable will only break down in certain temperatures and atmospheric conditions. So it must have the perfect situation. So when that plastic bag ends up in the ocean, it's not going to biodegrade. A really cool plant-based packaging solution is one featured here. These are bioplastics or corn plastics, which are plant-based packaging solutions made from organic compound that will over time decompose in just about any environment it's put into. And that's because it's made from a plant-based material. These are called polylactic acids, or a PLA. PLA. It's a simple plastic substitute that's made from fermented plant starch. So the coolest thing about PLA is it can also be shaped. So you can see that can take on any form, round, square, triangle. This packaging featured here is from a Guatemalan designer who's created sheets of bacterial cellulose with the paper-like qualities, and it's a sustainable alternative to plastic packaging. So this is an example of some personal care products, and you can see here that these bacterial cellulose sheets were developed using a mixture of water, and it's really flexible, like you can see on the left. And it's made from a bacteria and yeast called SCOBY, which is blended together before being spread out on a flat, smooth surface and left to dry. The SCOBY can be created by creating a culture or growing it and cultivating it in that way. It's basically a residual SCOBY leftover from a fermented drink made from sweetened tea. So if there's anyone out there that drinks kombucha, just think about that. This is a byproduct of kombucha. So it's pretty cool that this is the leftover element from making a drink. So I think about the different benefits that we might see, how this could help smaller communities, how this product made by hand can generate jobs and eliminate the need to transport raw materials from far away. The material is shown here, colored with natural pigments from ingredients such as hibiscus, saffron, and even charcoal for the black. The dried material can be glued together using water, even eliminating the need to use glue and other adhesives when sealing the packaging. So in addition to these qualities, the low-tech manufacturing process has a minimal level of energy consumption. This packaging here consists of 3 layers. It's a container made from soap in which the product can be placed in the center, and then the sheet around the outside is made from that cellulose material. So it's made from renewable resources, and the material grows quickly, and it can be fully compostable. And yes, it's vegan. Absolutely beautiful. Totally interesting, unique, stands out, commands attention. So we have to think about your brand. Your brand is all the words and the visuals, the actions used by your company that represent your brand and business values. So you must share these with every single touch point of your business. With my business, Salacia Salts, I had a dream that I was packaging in a sustainable material, and it was an old bottle that I found in my backyard. So my values as a company are sustainability, hospitality, beauty and wellness, and simplicity. This bottle that you see here in the cobalt blue is actually reclaimed from a mead tasting bar from a local business. So we reuse the bottle or upcycle it, package it with our salts that are sourced from Atlantic Sea, as well as combining different botanicals and ingredients that are raised and grown in the Southeast area. So we try to reduce our plastic as much as possible with the company and be sure we spend every opportunity sharing the values of the company and why we make the decisions we do. Why do we choose cork? Why are we trying to go plastic free? And I'm happy to report that we're at 98% plastic reduction in the company in just 1 year. So every single touch point, I have to make sure that my actions reflect my values. So reduce your packaging excess, remove plastic as much as possible from my line. I have to teach and share about what healthy skin and water means to me and to the earth, my business, and my consumer. So every day we have the power to make decisions that affect our business and our customers. From the fragrances and essential oils we use, the ingredients you're putting in your products, the health benefits, and even to the vendors we choose, the pricing we negotiate, the people we work with, the customers, employees alike, every single piece is your brand story. Packaging makes an awesome messenger. It's your sales team when they're not around to share your story, your product's awesome benefits, and your process. So every decision we make on behalf of our business and products is also the voice of our brand. So don't forget that. It's very important to leverage your packaging decisions as brand benefits to your customer and build your brand authenticity. Retail demands that eco-friendly claims have proof to back it up. Brands need to contain costs, so making decisions even as simple as reducing paper waste is an action towards sustainability. Companies may use less products or less chemicals in production, consider the compostability of their packaging. Maybe we're using biodegradable materials or soy-based inks. If you're doing this, share it. Share it all day long. You don't need to say that you're a green company or sustainable company. Just tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it. This will build brand trust for those who care. A company that does a great job of this features their values of beauty, equality, empowerment right on their label. They talk about the empowerment projects, the indigenous ingredients, how they help women, co-ops, and collectives in different third world countries. And of course, it's ethical, it's safe, it's great hair care and face products. And of course, they talk about the sustainability and the transparent packaging. It's eco-friendly. The products for sale go back to the reinvestment. So they go all the way back to number 1. They talk about all their empowerment projects right on their packaging label, which is reforestation, school supplies, bikes, maternal care, eyeglasses, school construction. All the things that are really probably pretty important for people that would love to do something if they knew how. So think about this package on the shelf next to one that doesn't tout any of the benefits. They're not just saying they're a green company or they're sustainable. They're talking about how they do it. So, big question here. Does your customer even really care about the environment? It's a big question, right? So, nope. This audience tends to think a little bit more budget conscious, probably hasn't thought much about the waste stream. They are probably more attracted to big box resellers dealing in volumes. They want the deal. They want a discount. They're not really concerned about something being super on trend, new to market, or unique. So you're probably not paying attention to this presentation if you're in that market. So if you were, I suppose, we would shift some of that messaging to them to help be a change agent. How can we start helping people in the mass market think a little bit differently? And hopefully we can rely on brands like SeaWorld and Coca-Cola's of the world to share the message and the importance of corporate responsibility. So a lot of companies will see that their customers are probably on the fence. These people do care, but they might not make a decision based solely on the environment. If they can see it's a benefit or something pulls at their heartstrings, or maybe they meet you, the owner, at a market and learn more about your product, they're probably going to start caring a little bit more and listening to your story, and you can educate them. They can be influenced. And of course, we're always hopeful that people do care, right? Yes, they do care about the environment and the decisions you're making with your brand. So leverage the heck out of it. Your customers can be found at small markets, at farmers markets, pop-ups, craft fairs, and different natural products or gift shops that support the buy local movement. They value handcrafted products and natural ingredients. So you must leverage all these decisions that you've made on your packaging, about your packaging, to benefit your customer. You want to build your brand authenticity. So if you care, you share it. Share why. So you can share in several different ways, promoting the ingredients and materials you use in your products to reinforce value. And you share why your company uses them. If you do this, why don't you put it on your label? If you're using an eco-friendly material, let people know right on the label. You can create icons that showcase your commitment. Use these as reminders on your website, your packaging, your trade show booth. And you can be a change agent. Help your customers understand and feel proud of their decision. Maybe you create a hashtag that allows people to put a hashtag that they care or that your brand cares or why they chose your brand over another. So we're in the business of making beauty products at Silencia, and we should not be leaving behind everlasting waste. It is not a pretty sight. And this holds true for the different industries out there with food and beverage. We should not be packaging high-end products or even basic everyday products in something that's going to live forever. So a lot of this is hard to do if you're a small business. How do you take action? How do you make a difference if you don't have access to producing 400,000 units in a year? So here's 8 steps to make your business more sustainable. You could start with reducing your packaging. The best packaging is no packaging at all, but that's hardly possible. And I love packaging, so I don't really want you to go that route. However, how can you create a package that will disappear in a few years, or even in 1 year, 3 months? How can you create something that will decompose back into the earth? Reduced packaging will significantly decrease your material and transportation costs too, so that helps your bottom line. Think about the container and packaging that alone contributes over 23% of the material reaching landfills in the United States. I just don't see, looking at these numbers, how the right decision is to produce something that goes in a package that lasts 500 years. There's a really cool product that was just developed by Carlsberg Beer, and it's an adhesive that actually replaces the ring plastic piece that holds all the cans together. So instead of having to produce that plastic that holds a 6-pack together that we all take home and clip out, hopefully to save the turtles and the fish, they have created an adhesive that is strong enough to bind those cans together. So hopefully this innovation will be available to many other businesses and industries across the globe. Another way to take action is to use biodegradable materials. So if you think about that recycle sign, there's three arrows that represent reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it's actually in that order. I'm kind of thinking we should create an arrow, a fourth arrow, right? 4 arrows that would represent reduce, reuse, repurpose, and rot. So if we can't rot something out, why don't we recycle it? So there would be four R's in that recycle arrow. We want to think about reducing the mixture of materials in your packaging. So as that video shared, putting several different plastics together in a pump makes things harder to recycle. So don't mix these incompatible items when you're planning your packaging. So 2 or more polymers or plastics fused together might prevent it from being recycled altogether because it's a lot harder. Think about a hang tag. If you put a metal rivet in it, all of a sudden that has to be separated. It just becomes a lot more difficult to recycle. So I would encourage you to make your package design multifunctional. So think about a container with a unique shape that will ensure the packaging gets a second life and won't end up in landfills. If you create something interesting and unique enough, people don't want to throw it away. So even if you think about a simple glass bottle, how can that be reused as a vase or a jar that can be used to hold office supplies? And here's an extra perk. The container can be used for a long time, so it will definitely increase your brand awareness and visibility for many years to come, more than just 30 days or 3 months. At your company, you can offer eco-friendly services, so you can develop incentives for your customers to easily recycle or even refill their products at your location. Of course, you want to encourage customers to use their own bag. You could sell eco-friendly products that complement your product line. At Salacia, we sell bamboo toothbrushes in our shop since we're a super tourist market, and we have lots of travelers coming in. They're looking for shampoos and soaps, but a lot of them forget their toothbrush. So why not take a moment to educate people about replacing the plastic toothbrush in their lives with something that's easy to decompose like bamboo? We reuse our shipping materials at Salacia. We reuse any kind of packaging materials to reduce costs and also reduce that content going into landfills. You can attract customers by saying that you're a green business by just doing this. And we have a sheet of paper that's placed in every single order or shipment that goes out that talks about the packaging materials that we choose. And we say, if this container includes plastic, please know it's something that's being reused from another vendor. Of course, you want to instruct your customers. You have to properly mark recycled and recyclable packaging and give instructions on possible recycling because it's not evident in every single community. And if you don't put what number plastic on the bottom of your container or how it can be decomposed or biodegrade, people will not know and it's going to end up in the wrong place. And of course, we want to encourage everyone to be an example to follow. This is doing the right thing within your workplace and inspiring others to take action and follow you as an example. So properly recycling your own trash and encouraging your team to do so, educating your team members of why it's important. You can consider the installation of motion detector light switches in less inhibited areas of the office. You can motivate and encourage your employees by rewarding them for new eco-friendly ideas and positive changes. Even a small company can reduce printed out material by using a slide projector instead of printing out the slides. So there's 8 actions that your business can take that are very simple to implement. So I encourage you to be the change you wish to see. We as business owners are the ones that are providing the options for consumers. Why not take that power to allow a person to have a choice? Because as we all know, there are very limited options out there. Let's provide a solution that is less impactful on the environment, even if you just start with one single product. Thanks for your time joining me today. I hope you've learned something and are inspired to take action and reduce your footprint.